We recognize that we gather on the land. We recognize that the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society gathers on the land of the Western Abenaki people. We respect the Abenaki spiritual relationship to this land, and we seek to honor their living traditions. We hope to learn from them how we can better respect Mother Earth and each other.
Good morning. Welcome to CVUUS, the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. You are welcome here no matter where you are on life's journey and regardless of how your journey started or where it started. We are honored to have you here in this community as we worship, explore, and grow together. Mabon to those who celebrated the earth-centered Sabbat of the equinox yesterday, and Gema Hatama Tova to those celebrating the Sabbath of Yom Kippur tonight. If this is your first time with us, please sign the book in the lobby and join us downstairs in the Ann Ross Fellowship Hall after the service for refreshments and conversation. Hearing assistance devices are available in the back. Please ensure your phones are switched to the worship mode. And if anyone has a milestone or passage they would like to share this morning, please feel free to fill out a yellow card and drop it in the offering basket. I am Tom Morgan, a member of this congregation and a member of its worship team. Today, I am pleased to be the worship associate of our service entitled Immigrants Perspectives. Last week, Esther Charleston generously shared her narrative as the daughter of Haitian immigrants. Esther's reflection opened our minds and our hearts to think about and honor those who have traveled through the rabbit hole that is the American immigrant experience. In a few minutes, Jordan Young, Avi Fruand, and Irena Pavlin will offer their perspectives. In addition to Sunday worship services, we hope you will take advantage of other meaningful ways to interconnect here at CVUUS, which are listed in your order of service, our weekly email blast, and our monthly newsletter. Many thanks to those who are making today's service possible: ushers Doug Smith and Mike Greenwood, tech gurus Abby Sessions, Richard Hopkins, and Rich Wolfson, camera operator also Becky, Zoom social host Steve Butterfield, our extraordinary choir, Marnie Wood for our seasonal arrangements, Prince of the Morgan family, Wesley Morgan, for reading the land acknowledgement, and Princess Amaya, who will be lighting the chalice shortly, and of course, Jordan Young, Avi Fruand, and Irena Pavlin for offering their reflections. Now, please rise in body and spirit as we join our voices in today's gathering song, We Build a Land. Words will be on the screen in 121 of our gray hymnal. We Unitarian Universalists live by a faith that tells us it is love that binds us together. Rooted in a tradition whose forebears knew the bitterness of being othered as heretics, we practice unifying principles and reject the othering that separates. We recite no creed that sets us apart from others because we practice principles that generate a we that is limitless. So we enter this place as we enter all spaces, respecting and reflecting the inherent worth of all individuals. We honor the independent web of all existence. We celebrate the diversity of cultures, theologies, and experience as they are instrumental in our search for meaning and generative transformation. We dismantle racism and oppression, clearing the foundation for beloved community, and we practice gratitude as we share our spirits and resources in alignment with our values. Please rise in body and spirit as we sing our chalice lighting, Rise Up, O Flame, printed in your bulletin and on page 362 of our gray hymnal.
Now, the grass. Beautiful job. And now let's sing our Children Full of Soul out to our, and youth, not just children, to our religious exploration program. We are going to sing 2 verses of This Little Light of Mine. Please sing with verve and feeling and everything in you, and also as many harmonies as you can muster. If you want to try harmony and you think it is terrible, that is great. I would love to hear that, terrible harmony. So, rise in body or spirit as we all go out.
Poppy would be proud. That was awesome. Now is the time in our service for our offering. This month we were sharing our collection with Resource Vermont. Resource started 30 years ago as an innovative program that rescued household items from the waste stream and ending up in landfills by repairing and reselling them. In addition to recycling, Resource has now employed and trained almost 2,000 at-risk youth and low-income Vermonters in valuable job skills. It is a model of environmental stewardship, compassion, and economic opportunity. Please be as generous as you are able. I have two yellow cards today, one from Scott Barkdahl. He asked that we keep Pam Birnbaum in our thoughts. She's away with her daughter at her former father-in-law's memorial service today. Scott is here with his dad, Stanley. Welcome. He's 94 years old, spending 10 days with Pam and Scott. I have an unsigned card that says, please keep my dear friend Eve in your hearts as she departs this earth. May her soul know peace. Blessed be. And I believe Marnie would like to make an announcement about the crop walk.
I don't know if we should call this a passage or not, but the crop walk is an annual event, and we're stepping in a little bit at the last minute. So in your thoughts and prayers and your generosity, if you'd like to participate, join me on the green next Sunday, the 1st. and or see me in the lobby with any questions, you can go to our website and see a link for how you can contribute to the Addison County Crop Walk for Hunger. And so many of you out there have supported me before. I'd be happy to have you do that again. So think about that.
Thank you, Marty. It's been a week, one of joys and concerns, ebbs and flows, giving and receiving, and one 24-hour period of 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. So now let us enter a moment of stillness, time for us to quietly contemplate that which we are carrying in our hearts today. not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor of twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Practically all of us are here today because of ancestral immigration in one time or another. When it comes to the importance of immigration in the United States, we could make empirical observations. We could say that the 14% of our population that are foreign-born wield over $2 trillion of economic power, which, if they were a separate country, would place their GDP in the neighborhood of Brazil and Russia and ahead of South Korea. We could say that immigrants disproportionately work in essential jobs in agriculture, healthcare, technology, food services, and childcare. To paraphrase Lin-Manuel Miranda's characters of Hamilton and Lafayette, immigrants, they get the job done. We could say that immigrants are about half as likely to be involved in crime as native-born Americans, and about a third as likely to be involved in violent crime. I don't know whether these facts would have impressed the poet Emma Lazarus. The descendants of Sephardic Jews, Lazarus was deeply engaged in anti-poverty and refugee work in the 19th century. She died at the age of 38. The words of the new Colossus, which adorns the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty, appeal to our collective humanity and privilege to welcome inherently and equally cherished humans with open hearts. Now, the perspectives of three of our own cherished members and friends are going to be shared with us, starting with Jordan Young.
So the first and most obvious question is, why am I here? Why is a white, male, presenting, English-speaking, often mistaken for a Jewish American-born guy talking about the immigrant experience? Well, about 6 years ago, I was working for Vermont Migrant Education, and I got connected with the 12-year-old son of Mexican immigrants. Let's call him Manuel. My job was to hang out with him and generally have fun, since his dad had been deported and he lived with his mom and his sister, two of those hardworking immigrants Tom was referring to. He was missing his dad. Hanging around his house, I got to listen to him and his mother talking about everything and nothing, and his mother exhorting him to behave and achieve in school and the like. And I was struck by how familiar the conversation sounded. How I was instantly transported back to my own childhood, to hear my mother say many of the same things in the same way. What the heck, I thought. I'm an only child, so I didn't have siblings to bounce things off of, and when I compared my mom to my friends' moms, I realized that she was different in some way. But as a kid, it never occurred to me to ask how or why. Sitting on Manuel's couch at the age of 60-something, I realized that my mom wasn't weird, she was a Latina mom. Now this is ironic, because if you had suggested this to her, she would have been incredulous, uncomprehending, and possibly offended. She spent 60 of her 90-plus years walking this ambiguous line between being the exotic foreign bride, the 1950s perfect housewife, and the keeper of a college town intellectual salon. Those of you who knew her may get the picture. For the rest of you, I'm sorry you missed out. She was extraordinary. But this got me wondering what her experience was like as an immigrant to the United States from Brazil in the 1950s. Immigration was a different thing back in the day. The American definition of who was a desirable immigrant started out with what was called at the time pure specimens of Protestant Nordic blood. Over time, the definition widened to include other Northern Europeans. To paraphrase some scholarly writing on the subject, from 1920 to 1965, the immigration system did not consider Northern Europeans as foreigners, while immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe were treated as inferior and undesirable. Our quota system of immigration was established in the 1920s, expanding the 19th century laws that excluded aliens. In poignant contrast to Emma Lazarus's inspiring words, Edith Abbott, an activist and a social worker at the time, noted, "We must, with the passage of those laws, we must come finally to accept as an accomplished fact that immigration will never again be open in this country to those who can show only sane minds, stout hearts, and strong hands, and that they must show also long skulls and blue eyes, or some evidence of belonging to that much glorified Nordic race." Because immigration from Latin America was thought of differently. Latin America being considered a land of immigrants, the native people having been killed or culturally erased, there was no quota for them. Scholars at the time considered them to have sufficiently uncontaminated Spanish blood so as to become good white Americans. In the words of one, they have adjusted themselves not too disadvantageously to American life. Thus, my mom came to the United States in 1951, probably on a tourist visa, which was easy to get, there being no quotas. She was very white, all of her documented ancestry being either Portuguese or Dutch. She and my dad, US born and raised, married in 1952. I was born in 1954 in New York, while my dad was working his first professional job in Brazil. My mother stayed with her in-laws, immigrants of Jewish heritage from just outside of Odessa, my grandfather, and my grandmother from Lithuania, incidentally from the same town that Sam Fogel was from, for those of you who remember him fondly as I do. Well, what must those three have made of each other? In my grandparents' apartment in Queens, New York, my very pregnant mom, who spoke rudimentary English, my grandfather, a charismatic, down on his luck, maybe alcoholic, and my grandmother, educated from that Nordic region so admired by the American myth, even though she was culturally Jewish. Three very different lives of the American immigrant experience. But after a picaresque adventure involving broken down cars on the Queensboro Bridge, they finally got my mom to the hospital and I was born. My parents settled in New Jersey in 1958 in one of the first Levittown-style communities. So here was my mom speaking decent, though heavily accented English by this time, alone during the day with a 4-year-old, no car, no driver's license, probably not another non-American born person in sight. I don't know much about her experience. She never talked about it, and I never thought to ask, as since mom as immigrant was the furthest thing from my mind for 60 years or so. At most it was mom as having a really cool backstory. I do remember her mom, my grandmother, coming to visit for a while. She spoke no English at all. And now I can imagine why she came, my mom being quite lonely. I remember trips to New York, to museums, and occasionally to meet my father when he was between teaching classes. Later on, they moved to nearby Princeton, and my mother became a surrogate parent for generations of Latin American graduate students, professors, and other professionals. She achieved her goal of reinventing herself as the exotic tropical young woman, hosting her cultured salon for visiting intellectuals. So thinking back to who I am and my sense of otherness, of not quite fitting in, when I was sitting in Manuel's living room and realized that I am the child and grandchild of immigrants, I got a sense of how that otherness got created, how my mom, reinventing herself in a new country, in a new language, could absorb all the surface trappings of American life and still not feel it in her bones. How my grandparents, who I barely knew, were part of that generation of immigrants who survived the Great Depression and who created from that experience what kinds of lives they could. And yet here I am, in the middle of Vermont, making a life, kind of fitting in. Margie and I raised 2 kids who are just as American as the kids around them, although what does that even mean to be American? Margaret Mead wrote that we are all immigrants in time. It makes me wonder to what extent we are all immigrants into the future, raising our children in a time that is native to them, but foreign to us.
Good morning. Headline, The New York Times, September 23rd, 2023. Yesterday. One day on the border, 8,900 migrants arrested and more on the way. A sudden surge of people is arriving at the southern border despite danger. If you don't take risks, you cannot win, said one man who traveled from Peru. This is my intro. We leave Haifa, Israel, on October 13th, 1955, on the ship Israel, making its maiden voyage. We arrive in Manhattan on October 27th, 1955. I am 7.5 years old, and my brother is 5.5. Part 1, fun, amazement, awe. The voyage is fun. My brother and I get to play new games like test drive the car, played by laying a chair down on its back with one of us straddling the back of the chair while the other one sits between the legs and steers. The chair crashes and breaks. So do some other things we test on the ship. We arrive in Lower Manhattan and are met by family, people I have never met before, but with whom I will grow close. I vividly recall the freight elevator raising us from the loading dock to street level, wider and bigger than anything I've ever seen in my life, capable of holding 100 passengers and their luggage all at once. And when it reaches street level, it's as if the curtains were parted on a new scene in a play. The wonders continue. Buildings larger than I've ever seen before. I have never been in a building taller than 2 stories before this. So many people, so many accents, so many colors, so many manys. In my class, there are several children who mercifully speak Hebrew and act as my translators. Television, snow. My parents have tried to prepare me for these experiences, but they are so much richer than anything I'd possibly imagined. Part 2, listening to my parents, mostly my mother. My dad talked about other adventures. I'm now a young man in my late adolescence and young adulthood. My mother tells me stories of my birth, Palestine, a British protectorate in its final weeks, Israel about to declare independence, our Palestinian neighbors declaring war, a bus that does not stop for fear of being fired upon, neighbors holding hands across the road to slow the bus down so that my mother can be pushed on board to take her and me to the hospital where I will be born. Sitting on a long plank running the length of the bus, on the floor of the bus, so that passengers are below window height to avoid being a target. Of scrounging for edible plants, dandelions, and other things because there is no food in the city surrounded. Of standing up mattresses in the bedroom to protect me, their newborn child, from bullets. Of wanting to end the adventure of 22 years in Palestine and seek new fortunes in the United States. To see family they have not seen in 22 years. Part 3, appreciation. I am now an adult. I have been working for approximately 8 years, not including jobs that I had as a teenager or in college. I have a path. I am working on my master's degree. I have moved to Vermont, and I've purchased my first home. My brother also has a home in Brooklyn. The fibers of this tapestry begin to blend together. And I begin to see just what it is that my mother and father have given us. Education, careers, homes, lives, and things that they never had. My appreciation of their sacrifice on behalf of the family and on behalf of my brother and me slowly gels and grows as my years grow. This is truly a gift that I had never seen coming, never expected, never appreciated all those evenings they urged me to do my homework and study. My appreciation continues to grow as I age. Part 4, I'm so special, or the confusion sets in. I am now a little past my mid-70s, which is confusing in itself. I'm retired. I am blessed to have this amazing experience of not doing much of anything and still having money magically appear in my bank accounts periodically. Really is wonderful. I have time to think, wonder, appreciate, and grow confused. How is it that I was so fortunate and others are not? I think Jordan alluded to that. Like so many migrants that, as Isadora Wilkerson eloquently describes in The Warmth of Other Suns, one characteristic of migrants that is often noticed is the desire for something better, quality yearning, an itch to live a better life, not only to get away from something, but also to go to something, to create opportunities for generations to come that they have not had. And that's where the confusion sets in. We have so many migrants in this country, often praised for their achievements, but frequently also maligned. How did I get to be deserving when I never really felt so deserving at all? One obvious answer is the color of my skin. Another might be my place of origin. Or it may be these small documents, a passport, a thin piece of paper called a certificate of naturalization. I think you can see mine right there. I am poignantly aware that these thin sheets of paper set my brother and me apart from so many others whose parents seek no less than my parents did. I am poignantly aware that these are not substantive differences. I think about the state of the Middle East today. I think about the state of many African countries. I think about the effects of climate change, not only here in the United States, but in Asia, the Caribbean, Pacific Islands. And I know that this is only the beginning. If we're truly one extended tribe, including all living things, survival and acceptance cannot be based on the color or the existence of a single piece of paper. The words of Joan Baez haunt me as she sings, "There but for fortune, go you, your I." I'm going to leave you with a reading from a book called Questions, a book of poems called Questions for Ada by Ijeoma Obobinyo. Here's to the security guards who maybe had a degree in another land. Here's to the manicurist who had to leave her family to come here, painting the nails, scrubbing the feet of strangers. Here's to the janitors who don't speak English, yet work hard despite it all. Here's to the fast food workers who work to see their family smile. Here's to the laundryman at the Marriott who told me with a sparkle in his eyes that he was an engineer in Peru. Here's to the bus driver, the Turkish Sufi, who almost danced when I quoted Rumi. Here's to the harvesters who live in fear of being deported, for coming here to open the road for their future generation. Here's to the taxi drivers from Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, and India who gossip amongst themselves. Here is to waking up at 4 a.m., calling home to hear the voice of their loved ones. Here is to their children, to the children who, despite it all, became artists, writers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, activists, and rebels. Here's to international money transfer for never forgetting home. Here's to the children who carry the heartbeats of their motherland and even in sleep speak with pride about their fathers. Carry on.
Please rise in body and spirit as we sing our next hymn, This Is My Song, number 159.
This is my How to be a good immigrant. 10 tips for beginners. Being a good immigrant takes lots of finesse. You are required to straddle 2 cultures. This includes seamlessly stepping out of one role and directly into another. It is kind of like the way Clark Kent turns into Superman, but without the liminal security of a phone booth. To assist you on your journey to becoming a good immigrant, I have compiled a list of 10 tips. These tips will help you to meet your goal, which is to successfully live in a foreign land and still maintain the familial responsibilities and customs of your birthplace. Are you ready to begin? Good. Rule number 1. Do not be offended when they call you an alien. This is not meant to be a personal affront. The term has been used in the United States since at least the 18th century to describe people who were not born in this country. Of course, you did not know all this when you saw your resident alien card at the age of 5 and later told your kindergarten class during the school showing of the movie E.T. that you were an alien too. Rule number 2, only eat native foods prepared by your mother. Your mother will exclusively cook ethnic food. You will worry that her food is too exotic for your picky eater friends. When your friends come over, you smile and nod at them encouragingly. Nod encouragingly at their frowns and quizzical looks. You suggest that they try the least weird-looking foods because your mother is watching and will be deeply offended if they don't eat something. Later, when you take them to your room to hang out, you will offer them Chips Ahoy cookies and Pringles from your secret stash to show them that you eat normal foods too. Although you like your mother's cooking, you will resent the fact that your family never orders pizza on Friday nights or goes out for burgers and fries. The most exotic restaurant your parents take you to is the Chinese buffet because your dad is enthralled with the idea. You eat as much as you want for only $9.99. Later on, when you are an adult with a family of your own, your kids will ask you to make nona's pita or tomato soup with dumplings. You will call your mom and try to nail down her imprecise recipes. She never measures anything, of course. You will cook for your family all the foods that your mother cooked for you. And when you go out for burgers, you will realize that the burgers you make at home are so much better. Rule number 3, speak your native language at home. Your parents will insist that you speak to them in your native language. They will teach you how to read and write in your native tongue too. There are some benefits to speaking a language spoken by less than 1% of the world's population. For example, you and your sister can argue in public and no one will know what you are saying or that you're even fighting. Speaking an exotic language can be a parlor trick. Sometimes your friends will ask you to say something in your language or teach them swear words. Of course, you only tell them the mildest curses because some of the swear words in your language are so offensive that they make even you blush. Being bilingual means that you have to translate for your parents. During school events, you will want to hang out with your friends, but you will have to stay with your mom so that you can translate and keep her company. One day when you're an adult, you will be hiking in Vermont and hear people on the trail speaking your native language. You will strike up a conversation and learn that one of the women was born in the same neighborhood you were born in and now lives less than 12 miles from you. You will realize that it truly is a small world. Rule number 4, cultivate diverse friend groups. Because you come from a foreign, homogeneous culture, you have no understanding of American racial tensions and unspoken rules of conduct between black and white people. You are therefore confused when your first grade classmates make fun of your friendship with the black boy who lives down the street. You and the boy will be inseparable until the 6th grade, when adolescent social pressures force you both to recede to your designated racial and gender groups. You will have many diverse friendships throughout your young adult life. Some of your best friends will be Southeast Asian, Chinese, and black. You will also have friends who are Jewish and Latter-day Saints and LGBTQ. As a foreigner, you will feel comfortable around other foreigners and people who are not part of the mainstream American culture. You will commiserate with each other about the struggles you face navigating two separate cultures. Rule number 5. While you are young, visit your native country every summer to maintain ties to extended family and to practice your language skills. When you visit your native country, you will be showered with hugs and kisses from grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends. Everyone will want to see you. They will have you over for dinner, take you out for ice cream, and buy you pretty Italian shoes so you do not have to wear those ugly American sneakers. You will be like Santa Claus with all the gifts you lugged from America. Barbies and G.I. Joes for the kids, Levi's and t-shirts from the Gap for the teenagers, purses and perfumes for the women, and Marlboro cigarettes for the men. You seem to be related to everyone. It will be comforting to be surrounded by so much family. You've never experienced such belonging before. In America, it is just you, your parents, and your sister. Your language skills will grow tremendously during those visits abroad. You will become so immersed in the culture that you will dream in your native language. By the end of your trips, you will wonder whether you would be better off staying in your native country. It will feel more like home than America. Of course, you do eventually return to America and try to bury your feelings of homesickness. If a civil war breaks out in your native country, you will watch the news and read the newspaper every day. You will attend protests and rallies in front of the White House, especially if the United States has placed an arms embargo and the Russians are supplying weapons to the enemy. You will worry every time your parents get an overseas phone call. You will pray that the call is not news about a family member who has been killed by a sniper or during a market bombing. Your family will sponsor refugees, including your aunt, uncle, and 2 cousins. They will live with your family for 2 years until they get established. You will teach your cousins how to be American teenagers. Rule number 6, be a good student and choose a STEM major. You will work hard to get straight A's because schoolwork does not come easily to you. You're expected to be good at every subject, whether you have a natural affinity or not. You will have to fight with your parents to do theater and other non-academic extracurricular activities. Your parents will tell you that anything not related to STEM is a waste of time. You will envy your native-born American classmates because their parents do not pressure them to succeed at everything all the time. In college, you will become interested in women's studies. Because of your parents' inherent dislike of liberal arts, you will make women's studies your minor and obfuscate the fact by choosing a serious major like mathematics. Rule number 7, recognize that you will be too American for some people. When you are young and do or say things your parents disagree with, they will accuse you of adopting bad American habits. You will argue with your father about politics, which will create family stress. He will chalk it up to your stupid American liberal ideas. Some fellow immigrants from your native country will be suspicious of your lack of accent. They will hear your flawless English and think that you're trying to trick them into believing you are an American. Americans, too, will be impressed by your lack of an accent. All this will make you feel self-conscious about your identity, no matter who you are speaking to. Rule number 8, accept a job with the CIA. You will marvel at the fact that the country that once labeled you an alien has now entrusted you with astonishingly powerful capabilities and information. You ask yourself, how can this not be my country? Before you become a CIA officer, everything about you, your family, and your friends will be quietly investigated. You will be subjected to lengthy polygraphs and personality tests before being vetted as a national security officer. This opportunity will lead to a career of sheer bureaucratic boredom, punctuated by times of unparalleled adventure, all of which you will carry untold to your grave. Rule number 9, accept that your children will be foreigners to your native culture. Your children will experience your culture in short spurts, through food, visits with their grandparents, and summer trips to your native country. They will, however, never be immersed in your native culture. This is partially because you are married to an American. Although your children will love their immigrant family's attention and their grandparents' cooking, they will never be able to sit and listen to family gossip and stories from the old country because your children will lack the language and context of those tales. The immigrant narrative will likely end with you. Rule number 10, never forget where and who you come from, and never let that hold you back from who you will become. Thank you.
Please rise in body and spirit for our closing hymn. As Unitarian Universalist, our we is limitless, so may we leave this place with renewed compassion for the tired, the poor, the homeless, and the tempest-tossed. May the light of our individual spirits be the lamp that we lift. Blessed be.